Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Identity Project. Today, I have a very special guest, another person that was so gracious to come on the podcast after reaching out to him through a DM on Instagram. You know, for all of you people out there that think social media is so bad, uh, there's actually some really, really good aspects of it. And so I'm so excited today to bring on a friend, Mr. Austin Current, onto the podcast, and we're going to dive into his story. What's going on, my man?
What's up, dude?
Doing good, doing good. I feel like our intro connect there was already pretty authentic. I feel like the fact that you know Joe and a few of these other people, which I had no idea about.
Yeah.
So, dude, it's cool to meet somebody else from Colorado. I feel like everybody in Colorado, like those are my friends. I feel like that's where I need to move to.
Yeah, man. It's a funny thing. So we lived in 2017, we lived in Australia. I'm from Indiana. Like my wife's from Kentucky. So we're small town, like Midwestern people. And in 2017, my wife got a job in Australia. So we moved to Australia for a year, and we came back after that year. Cause like the whole visa thing's only a year and they'll kick your ass out. So, you got to come back at that year. So, or else we wouldn't have. So, we're looking for any excuse to move back, but so we came back to Kentucky for a bit, and then I had a job offer in Colorado that brought us out here. And since then, man, like I've had friends from college and high school, and I've met new people out here, and it's just like it's the place to be in terms of like the energy and the vibe that I think Colorado puts out. And it's expensive, so you got to be prepared for that, especially coming from the Midwest. Like you're going to pay like 4 times what you're used to in rent, and just, you got to be okay with that. So that's interesting adjustment, but yeah, man, Colorado is an awesome place. So we've enjoyed it for the past almost year that we've lived here. So
Nice. Yeah, I actually grew up going there my whole entire life. My grandpa had a cabin in Pagosa Springs, and unfortunately, well, I mean, I still enjoyed it and all, but so now I love snowboarding. Like it's like my biggest passion outside of like this. And but growing up, I went there in the summer only, so I never experienced the winter there. I never experienced snowboarding. I was all, we would go hiking, we would do like the paddle boarding, we would go canoeing, all that type of stuff, which was great. But the first time I ever went snowboarding, I just remember like talking to my mom. I was like, why have I never been snowboarding? I've been to Colorado so many times, but like, this is what you're holding back on?
yeah, so snowboarding for me, man, is so you probably saw my latest, I was on my Instagram, it was on my story. But I just went for the last run of the season, and man, it's a beautiful thing. So if you've never been snowboarding or skiing, like for me, what it is, it's this moment of detach, because it's the only activity I've been able to find that allows me to be purely in the moment and present. Because if you're not, you're going to really hurt yourself, So it's one of those things. It's like finding that. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, why is this such a thing for me? Like, why do I always feel like I'm in the zone or in this flow when I'm snowboarding? And when you dig deeper to that, it's like, that kind of makes sense, because when we have challenge, if we have challenge on one axis and skill on the other, that chart of creating flow or being in the zone, you need enough of a challenge and enough of a skill within that challenge. And if you have that recipe, it centers out to become this flow state, you're in the zone. And so, I feel like snowboarding is one of those things that you can really challenge that, especially for me. Like I'm just in the zone. I'm challenged enough. Like I'm going fast enough. I'm hitting some moguls, hitting some jumps. And it's like, I'm challenged enough, and I got just enough skill that it's like, I don't die and I don't really hurt myself. And it's just like, sometimes I fall and bust my ass and, break my tailbone and hit my head, but I got a helmet, so it's good. But I don't know, man. For me, it's just this flow state, and it just allows me to detach and truly be present. So that's what it is for me.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I completely agree. I grew up as a kid skateboarding, and
Me
it was
too.
very
Yeah.
similar. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
very similar to that, but yeah, once I snowboarded, it was almost like my whole skateboarding experience, but like as an adult now, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
man. It's yeah, exactly. Like I got a good buddy that is from high school that is out here that used to be my skate buddy back in elementary school. So in the intro, you're like, let's go to elementary school days. So elementary school, I was the skater kid, like long hair and just like super into sports, you know. I come from a heavy sports background, heavy sports family. Um, Grandfather was my entire life was a football coach. Spent around 20 years in college football as an assistant head coach for numerous different universities. And so I grew up in a locker room. I grew up around sports. I grew up around football, and um, so I was still very much into sports. But this skating thing was just like taking over, taking over. And again, I think because for me, sports never were a challenge. I just come. This is what I come from. So this is like I always say that my mom is that coach's daughter and Remember the Titans. Like that's my mom. That's like what I grow up with. So like she's in my ear, and I was like best friends with my mom growing up. So like you could imagine what I'm like as a kid. She's out here like talking like, "Why did you run that play? You should run this play." And everybody's looking over like, "What's this woman talking about? Why does she know what she's talking about?" And it's just, so I'm just this little kid that's just kind of like spewing out these things too. And but this something about skating for me was like this, again, kind of like snowboarding, is this challenge that I wasn't initially like good at. I was good enough, to have fun with it and to hang out with my friends that were really good. And I got a lot better at skateboarding throughout, but it was this challenge. So I just like, that's a theme that I've kind of like seen in my life. I've kind of gravitated towards these things that don't always come naturally. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a theme that it's arisen in my life. It's just kind of gravitate towards these things that I always kind of do, those things that do come naturally, but I always kind of like have this side hustle or side hobby of like, this doesn't really come natural to me. So let's give it a shot.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's just keeping, we like to be challenged. I think that's for a lot of people, that's a big aspect of life that we enjoy and we want. It's like if we get too comfortable, or well, yeah, I mean, if we get too comfortable, sometimes we feel like, I'm not being pushed, like I'm not moving forward, I'm not excelling in life, or whatever it may be. But man, that is so funny, dude. Me and you actually sound pretty similar to those elementary school days. So
Yeah.
I was a skateboarder as well. I was the kid that I didn't have long hair. I had hair just like this, but I wear the skinny jeans, and so it was like I would go to the skate park before school. Then I would go to school. We would have football practice. I did football, track, baseball, like every sport.
Yeah. You name it. Just do it. Yeah.
Right. So get out of my football pads, put back on my skinny jeans, and go back to the skate park after football practice. Like it was
Right.
just hilarious. But that's awesome.
Put on these shoes that have holes in them that you take pride in,
Oh yeah.
because
Hell
it's like
yeah.
my mom, and, I go to my parents, and my parents were amazing growing up. They still are, but they just, I never had many rules. It was kind of just this like trust between, they were still parents at the end of the day, like not friends, but they were really kind of just friends too. And I don't know how that works out with every family, but my brother and I seem to turn out all right. So, but it was just this thing of like support, what you start, you don't quit, but I'm going to support you through it, whether I think it's a good idea or not. So like my mom knew skateboarding was kind of this dumb idea relative to playing organized sports that I could eventually get a scholarship in, because she knows she's forecasting into the future. And as a single mom, like I understand wanting your kid to like not have to pay for college if you don't have to, sort of thing. So it's just like, all these things are, when I look back now, I'm just like, I know these things are going through my mom's head, but she's just supporting this new challenge for me. and it's like self-discovery activity. And, they just let you walk around looking like kind of an idiot. If you look back at yourself, how you dressed, you wore these shoes with holes in them because you're trying to do these kick flips and shit. And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you wearing? But it's just like, I'm going to support you through this. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I just thought that's the first time I ever thought of it like that. But
yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like ever since having our son, Josiah, it's like, I mean, it's only been 6 weeks, but like leading up to it, and then even through these 6 weeks, like my channel of thought and how I think about things is so much different. And then also like the realizations of like what my mom did for me and my parents did for me, like growing up, like it's just so funny how it all comes full circle.
yeah, yeah, it's funny, man. I don't have any kids of my own, but it's funny. It's funny to look back on.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like once you do have a kid, it actually, it all starts happening. I mean, I'm just thinking about all, like, for example, like with insurance, life insurance and all these different things, like I just contacted my insurance agent and got like a lot of things like changed and fixed and increased and all of that, because it's just like you're thinking about things that maybe you have responsibility now that maybe you didn't before,
Yeah, responsibility, man. That's a beast of a word. It's a beast
Yeah.
of a theme, a concept. That's something I talk a lot about. It's something that played a huge role in my life. So I can
We'll
understand.
definitely dive into that, I'm sure, through the stories of sports. But dude, let's I guess bring it back a little bit here. So where were you born? How old are you now, and where were you born?
Yeah, so I'm 25, and I was born in Evansville, Indiana. So it's called the armpit of Indiana. Basically, it's that southwestern tip that kind of like scoops up and in, kind of lining up there with Kentucky and Illinois. So very southern Indiana. There's about essentially what separates me from a Kentucky accent is a river, the Ohio River. So you go across the Ohio River, you get some funky accents, man. You get some true southern like Kentucky accents. And it's super funny because that's like a 10-minute drive to get across the river. And it's a whole new world. And my wife listens to this, she's gonna crack up because she's from Kentucky, but she doesn't have this. She used to have this thick accent, but she doesn't anymore. But it's something I always kind of poke fun at. But
Yeah, no, so my wife, Alex, her, all of her parents, or all of her family is actually from Ohio,
okay,
and like Lorraine area, if you're familiar with that.
I'm not, but where is that relative to Columbus?
Columbus. It's like 2 hours from Columbus, and I'm so bad with directions. I don't know exactly which direction.
Okay, it's in Ohio. It's fine.
It's in Ohio. Yeah.
That's all you need to know. Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. So I mean, obviously, sports were a big part of your life. Then, how many brothers and sisters did you say you had?
Yeah. So I have one brother, like true brother, but I have 5 step siblings. So, and I guess I shouldn't say, I don't know how to say true brother, because I count all my, like, I'll never say that here's my stepsister. Like, I would just say this is my sister, just because, like, I think at that point you're family, and I think it's a weird label. I think it's like being engaged. It's like, this is it's not my girlfriend, it's not my wife, but it's like this weird term that we use, fiance. I think it's weird, but anyways, I digress. So I have 5 step siblings. So I would say 6 total siblings, but one like blood related brother who's eerily nothing like me, but also a lot like me. So
nice. So did you, like, what type of kid were you growing up through like elementary school days? I mean, were you like a popular kid? Were you like an introvert, extrovert? Like, what type of person were you?
yeah, so that's a good question. And I've been a lot more introspective over the last 2 years, 3 years, and I've been thinking back on all these things. And it's funny you asked, because I was very shy. So there's a difference between being shy and being introverted, And so I was both when I was young. I was introverted and I was also very shy. And so I was kind of socially anxious about being in the presence of other people, especially that I didn't know. So that's kind of that shy component. And then I just like to be alone or be with one other person or two other people. And so I really attached myself to one or two friends growing up. And so that's that introvert part of it. So very shy, very introverted. But in saying that, and I would attribute this to sports, but also I was like the most popular kid that was never around, if that makes sense. It's a super weird concept to think back at because, I have all these friends that are out here in Denver who, to the definition of it, were also very popular people and growing up in our community or in our town. And they're like, dude, they kind of said that back to me the other day. They're like, you're like the most popular kid in school that was never around. Like you would come hang out maybe like once or twice a month and like show your face. And then you just like do your thing in sports and that's it. But we never saw you outside of that. And it's just like, what were you doing? And I was like, I was just hanging out at home, man, just chilling. Like, I don't know. I didn't think I needed to be anywhere, so I didn't go anywhere. So that's the extent of it. So very shy, introverted, but yet still somehow popular. I guess because I would say sports.
Sports, yeah. No, I mean that resonates with me a lot. I was very, very, very similar, and I think for me it was actually like what got me in trouble later in life was like in high school when I really started caring about like if I was at home by myself, like that was a problem. It was like, no, I need to be hanging out with other people. I need to be, and so it was like trying to like fit in and with that identity, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I always joke with my wife now. It's like me time's the best time. Like I love me time.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah,
I'm definitely a very even till today. Even today, I mean, I'm definitely naturally shy, but I've had to get out of that shell just because of everything that I want to do in terms of aspirations. But it's just interesting how that identity kind of sticks with you even later in life, as you evolve.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I think I grew out of being shy. I will say that. I'm still very introverted. I'm very, and another component of introversion is this concept of overstimulation. So the way your nervous system is taking in the stimulus like around you. So even visually or auditorily, like it's a lot. And so if I'm in a super loud place or there's a lot of people around me, I draw back. Like I have to take a lot of breaks. I have to, I'll kind of like walk off and act like I have to go to the car, but I don't have to do anything. I just have to walk away because I'm just overstimulated. And, exceptions to this rule are like, if I go to concerts with my wife or something that I'm there and it's just this kind of out of body experience of being at this concert with my favorite band and my favorite person. But other than that, like the shyness has gone away, but the introversion still is very much there and the overstimulation aspect of it. So I am still that person that spends a lot of time on my own or just with one or two other people. So yeah, the shy thing has definitely gone away because I'll go back home or because I'm a kind of goofy dude and I'll say some out there things sometimes. I will say appropriate in the terms of like, I don't find like very crude sexual humor very funny. I don't know why, but I just don't. And so, but I'll say some out there things in terms of like asking a question like out of place and like to a waiter or waitress or that's just kind of out there. Like, they're asking your order and you're like, how was your day? And they're like, yeah, it was good. What do you want to eat? And it's like, do you like this job? And it's kind of just like, my mom's just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm kind of interested. And it's just like, you're not that shy anymore, are you? And it's like, I'm not that shy anymore. But I definitely, after this dinner with all these people, I'm going to go home and crawl in a hole, like I'm going to be by myself for like a week after this. So that's kind of the extent of, I guess, my identity now.
Did you growing up like having to like do presentations in school or anything like that? Were you scared to like speak in front of your class or like speak in front of audiences growing up?
Um, so going through, I will say going through middle school, I was still very much shy. So I think the breakout thing for me, a big moment for me, was I told you that I really attached myself to one to two people growing up in elementary school. And I met this, my best friend, his name was Parker. Um, I met him in second grade. So if this tells you how shy I was, my best friend ended up being until eighth grade. He was the first kid. So I moved schools. I moved. My parents got divorced. I had to move schools. Um, it ended up being a lot better situation, but I moved schools, and the first kid I ever sit by was Parker, and he had just moved there too from Oklahoma. And so we're in the same situation pretty much. And I remember this. Yeah, I remember like it was yesterday. Like in second grade, I sit next to this kid. He's got like this bleach blonde hair. He's kind of just like super, kind of skater looking, but also kind of this kind of Abercrombie and Fitch looking kid because he's got like all these older brother and his mom's super stylish. And so you can just tell, like, I don't know. I get sat next to this kid, and it's like, you want to be best friends? You know how kids are, and so I wouldn't talk to anyone else, but I would talk to Parker. And so Parker kind of, I think I've been thinking about this a lot. It's something I still struggle with actually, because he was my best friend going in through elementary school, through middle school. And we were, that big moment in your life when you're that freshman year of high school. He moved away eighth grade summer going into high school. And I was like this, I was lost. I was just like, so I don't really have any other friends. I have some other like kind of friends, acquaintances, but I don't know anyone. Like I feel very alone. And I think that was a big moment for me. That was just like, wow, okay, I got to kind of change this up, because I kind of just, I'm a creature of habit. So it's like, well, this was taken care of in my life. And like, I knew Parker was always going to be there. And I knew I could always go to his house on the weekends, and sometimes I'd stay there for a week at a time. And it's like, I was just another part of their family. And when they moved away, it was like this abrupt thing. It was like, I know he didn't want to tell me. And so it was like a month before summer was going to end. And like, he told me, and then like a week later they moved. And so like, I had no time to like emotionally prepare. And this is like the first time I ever dealt with something this like tragic in my life emotionally, like, because I was super young when my parents got divorced. So I didn't really know what that was. And so like, it's like the first time that I'd ever dealt with something like emotional like that. And so I think that for me, that made me kind of come out of my shell a bit and be less shy, because I was forced to meet and talk to other people. And sports really helped for me with that, because I've always been a guy that doesn't say a lot, but at least in sports, I was in my atmosphere. Like I knew what I was talking about, and I knew I could hold my ground, but I was also comfortable there. It's like when you go to I feel like this when I go to the gym, you're in your place, like you're in your atmosphere. Like this, I've been here a lot. Like I'm comfortable here. And that was sports for me growing up. And so after he left, that was a big moment for me that I think I kind of started to come out of my shell. So
Interesting.
so the public speaking thing, like through middle school, still very terrified of it. Through high school, I got a little better. And then I can't say I've always been ecstatic about it, but I knew people in high school in speech class that there were a couple of people I can remember to this day, like would shake so bad that you started like getting super uncomfortable. and all you wanted to do was make it stop. Because like I am an empathetic person, and you feel you can feel it, and you're like, oh my God, please make them stop. Like they don't have to do this right now. And I'm like looking at the teacher, I'm like, dude, why are you making her do this? Because there was a girl specifically that like, she would start with a full sheet of notes, and by the end it was like this ball of paper that she just crumpled up, and she's just like shaking and terrified and sweating, and it's like, why are you making her do this? Stop. So I was never like that, but I'd kind of, my voice would kind of quiver, and I was nervous. But then I got like college, I was kind of snapped out of that. I think I was just kind of like, yeah, this is what it is. So I'm just going to get up here and talk. And if I get what I get a grade that I get, I'm prepared. I know what I'm going to say. I got some notes, but at the end of the day, like sometimes when you start speaking, like, do you watch The Office?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So it's like Michael Scott when he meets with, the CFO of Dunder Mifflin, and he's like, sometimes I start a conversation and I don't know where it's going. So I just keep talking until I find my way. It's like, and that's kind of like speeches for me in college. It was like, I kind of know where I'm going, but sometimes I lose it. And so maybe I'll just keep talking, and 8 minutes later, I'll find my place. So yeah, man, it was, I grew out of that. And then I'd say now being in the education part of the industry, I have to get up in front of people and talk. So I'd say it's definitely dampened as my life's gone on, and I've gotten more used to it. But I was starting out, I was definitely shy, and kind of my voice was very quivery the whole time, and like very uncomfortable, and
Yeah. No, me too. I always tell the story. It was in a college speech class. I failed my final exam because I literally did not look up one time from my presentation. I sat there and read the note card the whole entire time. But then like 2 years after I graduated, I spoke in front of 350 people, and with no problem. It was like, the difference was like I was speaking on something I was actually passionate about, and I knew,
much easier.
Yeah, versus trying to, study something and do a presentation on it. So
these how-to speeches, I think it's the worst thing we can ever do. Like, because you're always stuck, that how-to speech in high school or college. It's like, all right, guys, we're going to give an instructional how-to speech. And like, that's your first speech. And it's like, everyone goes with how to tie a tie and how to make origami. And like, it's like the same thing you always see in every class, and you don't know what to talk about. And then you end up picking something the last week. You've had all year to do it, or all semester to do it. And you end up picking something the last week because you're like been putting it off. And it ends up being this thing you don't give a shit about. And it ends up being awful. And yeah, that's a huge point there. Is like, you talk about something, whether you're comfortable in it or you have a passion for it or something like that, it comes naturally.
Yeah.
From, more so than not.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, like knowing everything, like looking back and seeing every presentation that I didn't do good on, it was 100% because of that reason. So
yeah,
I'm a big believer in pursuing what you are passionate in, because it's so much. I mean, working, right? Our jobs, it's the majority of our life. It's the majority of what we do. So I mean, I'm extremely blessed to have fallen in something that I am extremely passionate about. But I can't tell you how many people come up to me and they're like, how do I find my passion? How do I how do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm like, God, I'm so grateful that I found that at 18 years old, because there's some people that maybe never find that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Passion's a funny thing, man. It's because the more you learn about passion, it's hard to dig deeper sometimes and like really think about things, because I think sometimes it is easier just to kind of like go with what you know and move on. And passion's one of those things for me. So, I definitely, I'm in a place right now. It's like, I think I'm passionate about this, but also I don't know yet. I love it. I really do love it, but am I passionate about it? And that's a question. And it's not like, I don't dismiss the work that I do. And I'm not saying I'm ungrateful, because I'm very grateful, but it's one of those questions you may or may not want to ask yourself, because it's troubling in a way, because, because I keep evaluating. It's like, I do really love this. I love to coach. I love to educate, but I don't know if I'm passionate about it yet. And maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I haven't found that yet. Maybe I haven't discovered my true passion yet. Maybe that lies in podcasting. Maybe that lies in writing or something different. It's along the same lines of what I'm doing now, but kind of a different medium, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you actually are thinking about that, because I think, like you said, it's easy for us to not dig deeper, and I think for me, what I ultimately figured out is that what I'm passionate about is helping people. Now,
Yeah.
whether that's through nutrition coaching or, whatever, as long as I'm helping people, like that's what drives me. Like that's what fulfills me in life. So as long as I'm helping people,
vehicle. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Regardless of the platform, like that's what it's about for me. So, but I like the question that's posed, because I definitely think a lot of people don't dig that deep. Those are the hard questions,
That's a hard question. It's like, I'm questioning what I'm doing, and I'm questioning what I've built my business around for the past 5 years, and what my identity is. Like, this is my identity. I'm known as this. Like, this is my most accomplished. I know I'm 25, but like, this is my most accomplished thing at this point. So if I'm like, why am I questioning it? But I think it's important to question it, because I'm confident that I'm going to come out at the end with an answer that's eerily close to what I'm doing now. I think I've found a place within this that I am really happy, and I do love it. And I think I'm going to fall into figure out that my passion is, if it isn't this, it's something close. So I'm confident in that. And I think that's why I'm asking the question, because I think I wouldn't ask the question if I was really scared that it wasn't, because those are the really hard ones to ask. Those questions you know the answer to already, so you just don't ask them.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah. And I think for me, like the part of what you just said is like helping other people. And that, I think as a person, you and I are similar in that way. We would like to help other people and show them that there is more of a light and positive thing within this, and this meaning life. And for people like us, it's, what is your vehicle? And so for us, fitness is our vehicle, and coaching is our vehicle. All right, not, I think fitness. So like, there's coaches in every industry, right? There's coaches that coach actors, and there's coaches that coach CEOs. There's coaches that coach football. There's coaches that coach everything, right? But those are vehicles. So ours is just fitness. Ours happens to be kind of the reps and the sets and the habits and the things like that, the improving your nutrition. And that's our vehicle, is fitness. But there's all these other vehicles out there too, that just people like us that chose a different vehicle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I don't know how much you know about my story. For the listeners, everybody, they've heard it a million times, but I mean, that's like me looking back on my life at 18 years old, sitting in a jail cell, not being religious at all, having God, save my life and give me a second opportunity at life, and allowed me to go from a life of essentially hurting people to helping people. And that's been the fuel for me for 10 years now. So for me, it's like, man, I've been this passionate, I've been this fulfilled for 10 years. Like, I know this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, and it doesn't even mean that, it doesn't even necessarily mean exactly what I'm doing right now. It just means that the shift was from hurting people to helping people. So as long as I'm helping people, that's literally the only thing that matters going forward.
Yeah, I agree, man. I've been talking a lot about, whether it's with my, my best friend and business partner, Alex, or Joe, or, and whoever, it's like doing the bare essential counts. Like doing that bare essential, like choose that. And that's kind of that bare essential that you're doing. It's like, as long as I'm helping people, that's my bare essential. And so anything past that is just, it is what it is. It's something that's positive. But looking back, it's like if you're unfulfilled, or if you come across a moment where you're unhappy, it's like, wait, am I forgetting to do my bare essential? And it's kind of like just it's doing that thing you say you're going to do. And I think that's something that often gets lost, unfortunately, is we like to promise things. We like to be a positive thing. We like to need to be relied on a lot of times and kind of feel responsible for people. But sometimes we just don't deliver on what we say we're going to do. And I think kind of going back, and I think that's my essential, yours is helping people. And I think my bare essential is, did you do what you said you're going to do? And that's in any part of life. And that's, if I told my wife I'm going to do something, did I do it? And it may seem simple, it may just be because it adds up and there's a trend of it. If I tell my wife, like, she's frustrated maybe because like oh, the trash is piling up, like that needs to go out, but I'm busy, I got a phone call, and it's like, no, I'll take it out. And at the end of the day, you didn't take it out. That says more about you and what you mean, or what you're saying to your wife or whoever you're saying it to, than you think. Like, that's basically saying, I just said that in a moment to make you stop telling me. I kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, I know what you're telling, like you're frustrated because the trash is piling up. My wife doesn't really do this, by the way, but just using this as an example. But like, if the trash is piling up and, she's running around stressed that the trash is piling up and she doesn't have time to take it out and she wants it to go out. But all I say is, oh, I'll do it. But it's basically like that kind of dismissive tone of like, okay, go do your thing. I'm going to keep doing my thing, but I'll just tell you that I'm going to do it. And I think that leaks into other parts of life, like even with coaching, like if you say you're going to send something to a client, did you send it? And even if it's a day later, it's like, you better have a really good excuse why it was a day later. Because it could be a simple email, like, hey man, you got a simple question. I'm really busy right now, but I'll by the end of the day, I'll get you an answer. And it's like, that's my bare essential, is like, did you do what you say you're going to do? So as long as I'm doing that, I kind of have this grounded, level-headedness about me. That's kind of like, as long as I do that, I'm good.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's intention, right? And then I think it's also taking ownership of your life. I love that book, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, Ben Bergeron talks about a lot. It's like this whole statement of like, I am the type of person that.
Mm-hmm.
Now apply that towards waking up on your first alarm, apply that towards actually stay consistent, whatever goal you set. But it's just, it's being that type of person that's like, no, I am the type of person that is going to do the things that I say I'm going to do, that's going to fulfill the promises that I made with myself and other people. So
Yeah.
I love that, man. So I have a question. Why or what do you think has shaped you into this person that has become, very empathetic towards, people and situations in life? Do you think you were shaped from your parents, your childhood experiences? Like what do you think that was?
It's a really good question. That's something I haven't thought a lot about. So I need to think a lot about it, I think. I'm trying to think more. That's a theme of 2019 for me. Think more. Spend more time with myself and think. It's a really good question. So I think the empathy part of me, I think that it came from, I think partly from my family, but partly just from me being me and observing. I'm quite an observant person. And I think a lot of what I do now, I think, was learned behavior on what not to do. because I am I am an observant person. I've been an observant person my whole life. I was a very observant kid. When you're shy and introverted, you have a lot of time to be observant because you're always kind of detached from the situation. You're never really the center of attention. I didn't want to be the center of attention. That's why I think it's funny that I was as successful as I was and am in competing, because it's like you were the most center of attention person out there. But I think it's just from being observant and watching other people's behavior and how other people are treating other people. And so it's seeing what you don't want to do, and I think I saw a lot of people dismissing other people and not giving them the time they needed or to be empathetic to their situation. And I felt this throughout my life at different times. And it's kind of that, if you've ever felt something so kind of deeply like that, it kind of like you feel it in your bones almost, like when it's so cold, it's like, oh, I can feel it in my bones. It's like so cold, like you can truly feel it. And growing up, I think some coaches that I had weren't very empathetic. And I saw that in the way sometimes it would make me feel. And so I think that's kind of what shaped that part of me. Was I felt there was these moments that I felt like that wasn't being given to me. Like there wasn't any empathy on in my coach's personality. Like he wasn't, like they weren't empathetic. They didn't, I don't give a shit, And it's like, to a degree though, you kind of should. Like, I'm kind of young, you think you're talking to you maybe want to be a professional coach, but you're not. So it's like, you think you're talking to a grown man, but I'm like 12. So chill, I'm kind of still developing here. I'm trying to figure out who I am as a person. And so I think I had coaches growing up that weren't very empathetic, or I was around people that weren't very empathetic. And I saw that the way that they made other people feel and the way they made me feel a lot of times. And so I think that character trait came from that, just kind of like being observant and allowing myself to kind of think about things like that and be like, I kind of goes back to that bare essential. It's like, well, I don't want to make other people feel like that. So if that means that I need to be empathetic or listen to people or just give them the time to say what they want to say, then okay, then that means I got to do that. And so I became a really good listener and just allow people to tell me, and okay, I hear you, and I think that's, the coach, I never really felt heard sometimes, when you're growing up and you have a coach that's overwhelmed, he's dealing with a bunch of kids and kids can mean high schoolers. So he's dealing with he's overwhelmed. He's got hundreds, I went to a big high school. So, there's 100 of us on the team, that's not a big enough coaching staff for that. So they don't have time, nor I think sometimes these guys don't have, looking back at it, they don't have the maturity to deal with that many kids that are seeking this true identity. They don't know who they are yet. And then you stick guys that are, again, only 5 years older than, sometimes 5 years older than the high schoolers, that haven't gone through much maturing of their own, but yet they need a job or they want to be a coach. So they get into it and then they don't, then they yell at you and they don't know how to handle you as a child or a young man or whatever you want to label yourself as. And so there's a lot of dismissal and there's a lot of not listening and there's a lot of yelling and there's a lot of all of these things. And I experienced that a lot. And so I think that's a big part of it. It was just like, I don't want to make other people feel like I felt in those moments. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge component of what makes you a great coach. I mean, we talk about all the time, like a little tagline for us and our coaches is like empathetic problem solvers. right? It's like
Mhm.
meeting somebody with empathy, but at the same time, them knowing that, you know, we're going to overcome this. We're going to, you know, we're going to solve this problem. But it's so funny. I mean, I think back to, you know, like what my mom told me of like, you know, treat others how you want to be treated. You know what I mean?
That
It's like,
kind of golden rule,
yeah, I mean,
but it's
we
so
don't,
simple.
it's so simple and we never know what other people are going through ever.
No,
You
you
know,
never know someone else's story.
we never know somebody else's story, but yet we're always so quick to judge. You know, even when we're aware of it, it's like just by human nature. A lot of the times, it's just something that happens. We have to like catch ourselves and, you know, say, "Come on, man! Like really, like,
Flip
you
the
know."
script, though. I think the important thing is that's a really good point you bring up. And what I want to say to your audience here is, if especially in this day and age, and we all experience this, but flip that around, and you feel like you're being judged, you're being criticized. They don't know your story either. So go in with the same head, level-headedness of like, hold up, they don't know my story either. So don't be so quick to judge yourself, and don't be so quick to listen to that critique. I think I actually listened to a podcast this morning. I go on daily walks. You know, I try to do 2 or 3 walks a day, and uh, having a desk job, you know, you got to you got to be intentional about your movement.
Yeah.
And so it was by Adam Grant, who is a psychologist, and it was a professor of psychology, and it's a TED podcast that's sponsored by TED, but it was talking about this concept of criticism. And, you know, criticism can be really constructive. Criticism can be really good. And I think I think there's a correlation between people that were very coachable as kids and take criticism well as adults. So I think that's important. But I also think if you're uncoachable as a kid, then you're uncoachable as an adult, in saying that you can't take criticism very well and you don't adjust or adapt to your environment very well. But in saying that, like, criticism is positive and should be positive and should be taken as like, okay, you're saying this for a reason. Like, I doubt you're trying to just be this like tenacious human and tell me this, but sometimes it's just, if you're not in a place to hear it, don't listen. And I think for social media, and, you know, we just judge ourselves so quickly, and we allow other people to really play into that, you know, like comments and DMs that may come in, or these disagreements on the X's and O's of, you know, training or nutrition. It's like, just, you know, that thing goes both ways. You know, that goes both ways. So treat others like you want to be treated. You don't know their situation, but they don't know yours either. So cut yourself some slack, cut them some slack, and just kind of, you know, I feel like that's just a big thing that's just being missed. Is there's the part of, you know, the golden rule, you know, you should treat others like you want to be treated, but you should also treat yourself like you want to be treated. So that's important.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So talk to me a little bit, and I know this is already, I definitely want to respect your time on this. I don't know how much time
I
you
have
have
as long
here.
as you need.
Oh, you're my man. Well, sweet. So let's dive into this a little bit. So how did you, like, knowing everything that you do now, and we'll get to that, but how did you, or when did you first know that this was kind of going to be the route? Like, going into college, did you know what you wanted to study? Like, what did that transition look like?
Yeah. So I have a whole, so I'll make this as quick as I can. So college for me is kind of this breaking out moment for me, because, again, as I kind of told my story in the beginning, sports always came very natural to me. And I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and why was this? Why is this? Not why was I good at sports? That genetically makes sense. But why were these themes of kind of these responsibilities and these disciplines in my life? And so as a kid, and this is kind of a story of responsibility that I mentioned earlier, that it played a really big theme. So as a kid, I never had to take much responsibility in sports because I was naturally good at them. So I just kind of had to go to, as long as I showed up to practice, like, I was typically the best one there or one of the best there. And I usually played 1 or 2 grades ahead of me. And so it's kind of just like, I never really had to worry about it. But the kids that did have to worry about it, that weren't as naturally good, I later found out they were also really good academically. And I was like, oh, okay. And this is something I've really thought a lot about. And I was never good academically until college. And so it turned out that I needed, we need this tension. I mean, we need this trauma. We need this, and I don't mean trauma in like the sense that we typically see trauma in, but you need this period of being broken down a bit and then reflect. And so my period of being broken down was, my trajectory was, all right, sports. And if I want to go to college, it's a scholarship. And so in high school, I suffered a series of very traumatic head injuries that kind of rerouted the way my life was going to go. And so that took a turn in very questionable, like, can I even get into college? Like, if athletics were there, colleges sometimes, like, as long as you have a 2.0 or 2.5, you're fine. But that's not the same thing if you're not going there to play sports. So I was really worried, and I got really scared because I was like, I don't know if I can even get into college at this point. And so it turned into, like, my grandfather was a college football coach, and at Ball State, he ended his career his last, would have been the last 12 years of coaching. I may be wrong on a year, but last 12 years coaching, we'll say, was at Ball State. He was the assistant head coach at Ball State University. And so he knew the admissions guy. And so he kind of like, was like, hey man, I believe in my grandson here. I think he's got what it takes, but his grades don't reflect, and his SAT scores don't reflect it, but just give him a chance. And so that was like the first time I ever had to take responsibility from academics. And so, yeah, the trajectory of where I am now, it all started with that first initial, like, when I took responsibility for the first time for my academics and for my intelligence, because I never saw myself as an intelligent person. I had a lot of sports IQ. Like, I always knew where I was in the field. I understood, different defenses and offenses. Like, I could see it happening in real time, and that's why I was a good player. But in terms of like real world in school, like academic intelligence, far from it. And so this is the first time I ever had to take responsibility for that. And so it was very eye-opening to me. It was this huge component of self-discovery for me. And that first year, I came back with a 3.9, 3.95, I believe it was, GPA. I got a freaking A-. So I got all A's and an A-, and apparently that docks you a 0.5 or something. And so it was like in chemistry too, or like something really hard, but I got an A-, and I was so mad I didn't get a 4.0, but I was also so proud of myself. I never thought going in to college, not even really being able to get into this university I went to, and coming out one of the top students of that class. And so, like, that was the first year for me that was like, I proved it to myself, like, there's more in me than I think there is, especially intellectually. And so that was just a big moment of self-discovery for me. And kind of the sky was the limit after that. And I kind of rolled with the punches. I went in as an exercise science major. And so I was into fitness. And again, I was really an ambitious kid past sports. Like, academically, I was never ambitious. So I was like, I'll just be a PE teacher or something. I don't know. That seems easy. And so I went to school as an exercise science of like, but maybe I'll do something else. And so I also knew, because I was kind of this mixed bag of my old self of not being very ambitious and not very responsible for my academic career. But also I was this kind of newfound person of trying to find this new self. That my aunt is a nurse practitioner, and she was like, well, it's a great career to be a physician assistant. that you should do that because you are a smart kid. And if you apply yourself and you go through the schooling, I think you can really do that. You can make some good money then. And so I was like, okay, she excited me about that. And so I went in, but she was like, one recommendation I have is that you don't take the typical trajectory in school. So go and do your exercise science, really love your undergraduate. And they're looking, especially as males, like they're looking for people that have a different background. They don't just want people to be nurses and then go in. Like they want people from different walks of, this academic journey. And so these different levels of knowledge coming from different areas. And so that was my plan. I went in and I did my exercise science thing and I did really well in school. And so then I got into competing. Would have been my sophomore year of college, because I got talked to by a friend that was competing. And she was like, there's this new men's physique category. I think you'd be really good at it. Just try it. And I'm like, hell no, I don't want to do that. And she was like, just do it. Like, I'll shut up if you do it. Like, I'll never mention it again. I'm like, all right, fine. Then please, I'll do it. And so I prepped myself for it. I had 6 weeks to prep, which looking back is hilarious. But I was already fairly lean, but I had 6 weeks to prep for it. And I ended up winning it. And then it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of fun. I enjoyed that competition within myself. I enjoyed the process of getting to the stage. I hated the part of the stage because I hate being in the center of attention. But if I have to do the end piece to do the beginning, then I'll do it. And so that's kind of started me on the path of personal training, because I wanted to be in the gym so I could train myself. And then that got me into, I got myself a coach for physique competitions, which then kind of shed the light on the possibility of that. And so, yeah, in 2014, we started our coaching business, Physique Development. And that's kind of where we started coaching people in 2014. Yeah. So I didn't know I'd be in this at all. I thought I'd be a physician assistant, but I knew if I could not go to school forever, I'm going to do that. And I knew if I could not have a bunch of student loans, I'm going to do that too. So I ended up here and I've been enjoying it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that story. I think there's so many parts through that I want to hit on. One, and again, I'm thinking about all of these things now as a dad, but it's so interesting. I mean, I've been studying a lot of this and really, thinking about how I want to, kind of bring my children up. And, going back to you, when you were good at sports, all you had to do is just show up to practice. You were the best one. You never had to, quote unquote, like work hard.
No, not really. I had to work hard when I was there, but I didn't have to work hard outside of that.
Right. So it's like, it's this idea of like when a child is just naturally good at something and you're like, oh, good job, rather than saying you worked really hard. I'm proud of you. And telling them that, like instilling you worked really hard, that idea versus things just being easy for you. And now it's like later in life, it's like the things that were hard for you, like those are the things you want to do. And so it's just,
exactly.
It's crazy.
And I had my grandfather to thank to kind of instill that in me. Again, I absolutely love my parents. So if they're listening to this, I love you. But they are not they're very hardworking, but I wouldn't say they're very ambitious people. And so there was never this forethought of the future as much as just great job in the moment. I'm really proud of you. But my grandfather is this totally different guy that's really shaped who I am. And he's the guy that I always had to call him after my games if he wasn't able to be there because he was coaching. And when he retired, they actually moved to where we lived so he could watch us grow up, watch us play sports, and really impact us, which I'm incredibly thankful for. I think I'd be a different person if that didn't happen. But I always had to call him, and my grandfather and I are the same, and we're very introverted, and we don't like to talk on the phone. So our conversations were very limited in words, but the words that were said were very meaningful. And intentional. And so he would ask me the first thing, I'd have to call him and I'd say, like, "Oh, grandpa, I won. We won. I played really well." And he's like, "Did you work hard?" Yeah, but we won. I made this many 3-pointers and I got this many tackles. And he's like, how did you play with the other teammates? Did you pass the ball? Did you high five your players? And it was just like instilling this, like, this isn't about you, dude. Like, I know you're good. I get it. But there's bigger things here at play. And I don't care if you don't want to talk to me. I'm going to ask you about these things. And he kept doing that the rest of my life. And he still does it till today. And if I have a big decision to make, I'll call him. Because at the end of the day, I know he wants me to be happy. But at the end of the day, I know he's got some sound advice. And that was early on. Like, again, like what you're saying, he was the only one in my life at that time that was asking me these hard questions. And I see him do it now because I have a very talented cousin. It's my mom's brother's son. It's my uncle's son. He's in like seventh grade. He's about 6'1", but like not clumsy. He's like athletic 6'1" in like 7th grade. And that's scary. And like, it's insane to go watch him play basketball, football, baseball. It's any sport this dude is good at. And I watch my grandfather do it to this day to him. His name's Owen. He'll give him a nux. He'll give him a high five. Say, "I'm really proud of you. You worked really hard out there." He says nothing about how he played. He says nothing about the shots he made. He says nothing about anything other than, "I'm really proud that you passed the ball. You were unselfish out there and you worked really hard." And he called me the other day, my grandfather did. And he was like, "I was really proud of Owen," because at the end of the game, he kind of got in this fight. It wasn't like a fist fight, but it was kind of a pushing fight. And I was really proud because, he's always been this bigger kid, and he kind of just takes it, because he is so much bigger than the other kids. So if he pushes someone, he pushes them. And so like the last one, the foul's always called on the last guy to act. And so me being a little guy, I always cause people to foul me because I would annoy the shit out of them, or like checking them in the ribs or like pushing them a little bit. And then they would push me, and then the ref would call a foul on them because they'd push me. Right. And so he's on the other end of the spectrum because I've always been a short kid. He's always been a tall kid. But my grandfather's just proud. He's like, he was unselfish the whole game. He worked really hard. But then he taught this kid what was going on. Like you could tell he just looked at this kid and was like, "Stop fucking with me." And it was just like, but just hear my grandfather go through that. And like, that's just the same things that he was telling me as a kid. And it's so funny to look back on now because I was oblivious to it when it was happening. But yeah, man, things that were instilled in me growing up were work hard, be unselfish. It didn't always stick, but it's stuck now.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think I think that was just so cool to go through that right there. Like, it just goes to show for you parents out there, this is a reminder for myself, but, reward hard work. Don't reward, don't pat them on the back just because they're naturally good at something. Like, instill that phrase of, did you work hard? Like, I think that's such a great application towards life, regardless of whether it's sports or any other area. So, dude, I love that, man. Well, Austin, dude, I feel like I fucking love podcasts, man. I feel like
me too, man. Yeah.
I love the connection, my man. And, I feel like I could sit here and talk to you all day long, but I definitely want to respect your time. And, but dude, where can everybody find you at? Obviously you have a huge, Instagram following and all of that there, but website, I know you're starting a podcast maybe soon. Where can everybody find you at?
Yeah. So Instagram, people, I guess, like to follow me there. So Austin Current on Instagram. I spend most of my time on Instagram, I'd say, like putting out content, because I typically go, being an introvert, if I'm going to be the center of attention in any way, I'm going to go where the attention is. And so that makes tactical sense to me. So Instagram is usually where I'm at. So Austin Currents, if you just type in Austin with CUR, I typically kind of start to come up there. And then, yeah, physiquedevelopment.com is our brand, is our coaching service. And where we publish, articles or things like that. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to starting a podcast. So it's going to be called Life Beyond Fitness. And it's going to be similar to this in a way that it's just digging deeper into the individuals that are in this industry and that are talking about those X's and O's and the conflicting research, but that are also these enigmas like we were talking about. You always want to learn more about them, but they never say it more. They never elaborate. So I want to elaborate. So that's my mission with it. So I'm hoping I got my first interview within the next couple weeks. So I'm in the beginning stages of it. So it's not out yet, but if you listen to this sometime after it's, a couple months after it's launched, then maybe you could look for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm so excited for you. You will, just based off this interview and all the other ones you've done, you're going to love it. I think it was 2 years ago or ish, somewhere around that time, I started listening to a podcast. I started my day off every single day with a podcast. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, that is life changing. Like, try to start listening to as many podcasts as you possibly can and just watch, your life just start to change and improve. And, I think it's an amazing platform. And then now being able to, do it myself and interview other people like yourself. It's been awesome. It's a great way to connect. And I think that whole human connection, that whole building relationships with people, I think that's really important. And I think that, that's something I'm definitely striving later in life to do more and more of. So awesome, dude. Thank you so much, my man, for taking the time. And we'll talk soon.
Extremely grateful. Thank you.